Salon. This is where you is. This is where you at. And I am thrilled. I am thrilled to be able to step in for Beverly. Beverly, let me just say, is in the other end of the country. She's in I think it's Pittsfield, Massachusetts, with her husband Joseph Doherty. He is launching his play, Chester Bailey. Donna and I had a chance to see it in San Francisco. It is an amazing play, and I hope it comes out here sometime really, really soon. And I am hearing some extraneous conversation in the background. So do we need to mute some people or? Oh, there, it's gone. Excellent. All right. You know what? You can do that while I'm here, but we do have some wonderful storytellers. And first of all, let's have a shout out for Amber. She has put all of this together. Right now, you see that tiny postage stamp at the top of your screen where it looks like it's all green on one side. Do not adjust your monitors. That is Amber. Amber is one of the most colorful people you will ever meet, and perhaps throughout the course of the show, she might be putting on different hats. So, you know, I'm known for hats, but I will bow to Amber when it comes to the headgear. All right, so we shall begin, and we are going to begin with a person who is right next to me over here sharing a sofa. Hi. And we've been doing this for 13 months. Anyway, this is a very talented individual. She is an actress. She is a voiceover artist. She is an audiobook narrator. She has completed studies at the famed Second City, just a couple of blocks up the street. She is incredibly talented and very well kept secret. She's incredibly funny when she needs to be. And she is a damn fine storyteller. That's how Beverly would introduce her, a damn fine storyteller. And she is cat mom to this one over here. So ladies and gentlemen, a virtual round of applause for Miss Donna Figueroa. Mute.
I hear you.
You're muted.
Okay, unmute myself. I can unmute myself. Just didn't want the feedback. How is everyone? I have been.
How are you?
Well, we'll see after I finish this. It's been, let's see, the theme tonight, it was a whole new ball game. And I think a lot of us are going through similar things right now. I mean, I'm going back to March 11th, 2020. I forgot already, which was a pretty ordinary day. I went to work and then I went to dinner with Tony down at City Walk in Studio City. And I remember because we always go to City Walk before Story Salon. And I'm assuming it was a good night at Story Salon because, I mean, it's always a good night at Story Salon, right? And I wish I could remember specifics because this was the last day of normal. The next day, the entire world changed forever as everything started shutting down. And the next day we learned that Tony and I, that our day job would be closed for 2 weeks. Okay. And I gotta admit, I was excited because I'd always dreamed, oh, what if I had the gift of time? I could do so much. I have 14 days. What am I gonna do? Well, I plan to clean house, organize my office, build a website, update my information on all the actors' platforms, which is necessary for professional actors these days. I wanted to re-edit my book series, or at least start on it, catch up on my correspondence, and clean my closet. 14 days. Soon became 16 days, then 2 months, then 3 months. And I had a feeling we wouldn't be going back to work until 2021. And strangely enough, I was okay with that. It was like I'd entered a Twilight Zone reality. I was busy living the life I'd always wanted to lead. I mean, I was finally working as a full-time actor. I worked more professionally in 2020 than I have in ages. Um, I mean, I'd always dreamed that my perfect life would be narrating audiobooks, which would give me time to do everything else, go to auditions, callbacks, bookings, and I could make my own schedule. Uh, Tony and I were both taking classes. We were doing on-camera auditions via self-tapes, that is, actors taping themselves and submitting themselves from auditions. So we never had to leave the house. In fact, I dubbed our living room the pandemic studio and theater. By the time summer came along and the Black Lives Matter protests started happening, many of them were happening just a few blocks from where we lived. Things got different for me. I started taking care of myself. Those doctor's appointments I've been putting off, I actually made them and I kept them. And then I've reached out to people who were important to me, who I hadn't spoken to in some cases years. I mean, there was Zoom, there was the phone. I wrote thank you notes and it felt good. I made healthier choices in my cooking. I made exercise a priority and I started meditating. And I realized how important my family and my friends were to me. I mean, being separated from them, I mean, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? I mean, Tony and I enjoyed a couple of evenings with another couple, outdoors, socially distant. I mean, we did movie nights. They put up a screen on their back patio. Each couple was on a different side of the patio with different food. We each had our separate food setups. And that was great. I mean, I'd only seen Tony really. Uh, Christmas Eve, we spent some time with another couple on our pool deck looking at the Christmas star again, masked, socially distant. And it was nice. And all during lockdown, I started talking to my mom more, usually twice a week for a couple of hours at a time. Then those visits became a lifeline for me. They were, I mean, they really became the highlight of my week. I think I started slowing down because I had the time and I made decisions based on thought instead of acting immediately. Sometimes I can act too fast. And I learned a lot about myself. And I was grateful that I was healthy, Tony was healthy, my family, my friends were healthy, but I couldn't help feeling guilty for those who weren't or knew somebody who was sick. I think the day that I got my first vaccine dose, that's the day I started to transition back. And I'm sure this was true for many of you. Uh, it was a journey into the new normal. I actually had a panic attack when I got my first vaccine. I mean, I just like things were going to change. And then a few weeks later, after I was fully vaccinated, seeing people, hugging people, having dinner with people who were vaccinated, planning a trip to Ohio to see my mom in person. I say my mom, I don't know if I'm gonna see my sister yet because for whatever reason, she's doesn't plan to get vaccinated. That's a story for another time. When we got the news that we could return to work, well, the prospect really scared me. I mean, how many people are really taking their health as seriously as some of us have? I'm back at work. I'm wearing a mask. Most of my colleagues are wearing masks, but I'm looking at a lot of people from all over the country who aren't. I'm able to practice social distancing. It's challenging, but I can do it. And it's not that I'm concerned about getting sick. I guess I'm concerned about contracting the virus. I'm asymptomatic, but then I pass it on to someone else. I don't think I could live with myself. For me, it was easier to go into lockdown than it has been coming out of lockdown. I mean, I never expected to return to the March 2020 version of normal. I mean, I knew there'd be a new normal on the other side of all this, but I had no idea what to expect, and I still don't. I'm looking for some level of comfort, and I haven't found it yet. I mean, a lot of things are similar, but for the most part, it's different. I mean, just look at the political climate. I mean, it's crazy out there. We may have left the twilight zone, but we've entered the outer limits. And frankly, I always thought the outer limits was scarier, creepier. When I think about my lockdown experience, I concentrate on the positive. I did 8 audiobooks. I did 2 roles on a Netflix animated series. I did a feature in my living room. I did a commercial with a photo shoot, booked an ongoing educational video series, a couple of narration gigs, and a play, which was on Zoom. But Monday, I start rehearsals to do live performances in July. And the plan is to take this play to New York City for an off-Broadway run. Oh my God, if that happened, I mean, that's like a wish come true. And I finished my initial to-do list. Almost. I never got around to cleaning my closet. I guess in my mind, I'd be admitting that COVID is over. Be safe, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Donna Allen.
Donna's computer. Okay, am I here now? All right, Donna Allen Figueroa, one more time. So, I am so looking forward to us going back to the art parlor so we could actually have real applause and real interactions and real laughter when something is amusing or even funny. Our next storyteller, actually, since Donna brought it up, is there that one task that you said, you know, I'm going to do if I have all the time, and now 15 months later, you still have been putting it on the back burner? Normally, I would say this to an audience and people would shout out shit, but you could put it in the chat, I guess. Anyway, we'll bring up our next storyteller. This is an amazing individual, a talented performer, an incredible storyteller, and I just love the sound of her voice when she gets started and goes and goes. It could be really poignant, it could be really funny, and sometimes it's everything and more. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Pat Willson.
Yeah, I thought I was going to finally write my memoir. Nah, didn't do it at all. But anyway, for tonight's theme, I thought about it, and I sort of feel like Jonah. I feel as though a whale has finally spit me out. The world I knew before is not the same. It looks different. Cleaner air, at least until the fires get full swing again. My only fear is that life will return to the old ways, you know, the ways of greed and condemnation. Looking back at previous worldwide pandemics, things did return to the old ways. Well, there were advances in health protection, both then and now, and that's a good thing. This time, we created a vaccine in less time than ever. Pretty good. My church opened its doors, and the joy was overwhelming. At being able to be in the presence of live bodies again, even with masked faces. I'm really happy that Zoom was around to keep our faces recognizable when we were demasked, but nothing replaces live bodies, I don't think. And hugging, how nice that is. All in all, I learned things in areas that would have been ignored on the whole had there not been a whale to swallow me. I planted things everywhere I could on my property, mostly flowers, but also tomatoes and herbs as well. I learned it takes a lot of attention daily to keep them happy and productive. I made a terrible mistake. I planted a tomato plant in the exact same spot that I did last year, only to find out I shouldn't do that. Or because no tomatoes will come from the blossoms. I remember hearing about crop rotation in school, but forgot all about that since I had no access, no occasion to use it back then. All this time of not going out to eat not only saved money, but forced me to get creative in cooking. I'm not a natural and too anal to veer from a recipe. You know, if it calls for a cup of chopped onions and I only have 3/4 of a cup, I will throw my hands up in despair and wait until the next Instacart delivery to continue with it. I decided to investigate better, more healthy eating while I was sitting here for over a year now. I'm becoming more successful at it. In the late 80s, I bought a book by John Robbins of Baskin and Robbins called Diet for a New America. He had given up his ice cream heritage in pursuit of healthy eating and never went back. It changed my life. I became a vegan. All that really meant to me was I did not eat meat or dairy or eggs, but I ate plenty of cake and bread and potatoes and sugar and processed foods. I mostly ate out at restaurants and fast food places. I got fat and constipated, and that was disappointing. Stool softeners and fiber powder became a daily diet addition. Inside the mouth of the whale, I decided I must be doing something wrong. So since I have all this time, I'll delve deeper. I found foodrevolution.org, a website by John Robbins and his son, Ocean. I found my mentor again. That changed everything I was doing. I've adjusted my need to stick to measurements, adapt to what I have in the fridge, leave the processed products in the store, and incorporate colorful veggies and fruits and make sauces of all kinds. No white flour products or sugar. And voila, I've lost 20+ pounds and I have no cravings. I threw out the stool softeners and fiber powder, much to my delight. My energy is off the charts. I cleaned out the kitchen cabinets and all my closets. I found 6 containers of oregano and 4 of bay leaves, 3 quarts of corn oil, 4 bags of black lentils, 6 cans of diced tomatoes, things I couldn't find in the chaos and disorganization I had been having in the cabinets. I kept buying more every time I thought I didn't have something. I gave away a lot of food. I hope I stick with these new habits. Now that I've emerged into the world, mostly unmasked and off of my own street and back in my car again, going to all the grocery stores, I'm more organized now. My cart is loaded with fresh foods now, colorful and organic when I can find it. My thinking is clearer, which is a boon. My memory is a bit better, and the brain fog is at a low ebb. All in all, this new way of life is a vast improvement. That's it.
Pat Willson, ladies and gentlemen. So you threw out your Baileys?
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a worthy organization that would take it from you.
I had 4 jars of it.
I didn't know it came in jars.
Well, you know, those screw top things.
Oh, I thought it was the Irish cream. Donna's correcting me. She says, oh, it's bay leaves, not bay
Bay
leaves.
leaves, yeah.
Oh, it's my accent.
Okay, that's not so bad. All right. We got tabbies running around here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring up our next storyteller. Al Underwood is a guy that you have seen in the audience at the art parlor on several occasions. He's the man behind the stash. He is, I would say, a Renaissance man. This is a guy who is incredibly talented, incredibly dynamic. I think he's actually one of the most dynamic people I know. And he has laid wisdom on me on multiple occasions. And he is a man who's not afraid to invent himself when the time is right to do so. I'm also very happy to say that I have been his friend for about 30 plus years now, and he is a great friend to have. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, this is really his first time doing a story salon story in this type of venue. So, Al, close your eyes and think of England. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Al Underwood.
That is funny. I don't know if, am I muted or unmuted? Can you hear me? Is that all cool? We're good. Okay. Yeah, it's my second time doing this, so I'm rank amateur, don't know what the hell I'm doing. But it was a whole new ball game for me when I woke up January 24th, 2019, and realized that I was having a stroke. I'd been stressing for years and stressing over money, stressing over my job, stressing over health, the whole life thing. And it wasn't doing me any good. The day before my stroke, though, I had my day off from work, and I decided that I wanted to give myself a vacation, a staycation. I wanted to do the thing that I love to do most, which is just travel around Los Angeles and explore. And I did. I pushed all of my worries to the side, completely forgot everything, and off I went. And I did my favorite thing. I walked for miles and for miles. I rode the bus, I rode the train, I went to downtown Los Angeles, I went to the arts district, I went to museums, I took myself to a fancy restaurant at a nice hotel. And the day went all the way into the night, very late into the night. I even found my way into Hollywood and had a chance to go to one of my favorite pubs and have some drinks. It was fantastic. I got home extremely late, kicked off my shoes, dropped my clothes, and laid down on the sofa, and I was out like a light. I woke up in the morning and I felt a little woozy. My arm felt like I slept on it all night long, and I had a hard time kind of sitting up. My face felt a little tingly on one side, and I thought, I can't be having a stroke. But I started to get a little nervous about it. So I sat up, and as I tried to stand up, I couldn't. My legs were like rubber. They were like noodles. I couldn't put any weight on them whatsoever. And I realized, holy shit, I'm having a stroke. What's the first phone call you make when you realize you're having a stroke? Yeah, you call work. I called my assistant and I said, hey, can you go in and open the shop for me? Because I think I'm having a stroke and I'm going to go to the hospital, and took care of that. What's the second call you make? You call your best friend. Hey, Fred, can you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth right now? Yeah, why? Because I think I'm having a stroke. I can't feel my arm. My face is tingly. He says, dude, don't call me. Call 911. Go to the hospital. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do that. So I call 911. Hi, I'm having a stroke and I need you to send some help. How do you know you're having a stroke? I'm having a stroke. Send somebody on the way. She says she'll stay on the line with me until the ambulance gets there. And I realize, holy shit, I don't have any pants. I got to have some pants on. She says, don't worry about that. The paramedics know what to do and they'll take care of you. I was like, I can't leave this house without pants. So I flop off the sofa and I wriggle over like a worm and grab the pants. And I'm trying to pull the pants up onto my rubbery legs. And it's ridiculous. She says, relax. I'm pulling on my pants. I put on my socks. I put on my boots. and I'm exhausted. She says, they should be there any minute. You should be able to hear the siren by now. I said, oh my God, my front door is locked. Don't worry, they'll break down the door. They can get in, they know what to do. I said, no, I can't afford to have them break down my door. I can't afford to fix that. So I, like a worm with one arm, I'm crawling across the floor, and I get to the front door, and I could lift up my body just enough to unlock the door. And I just flop down. And then I realized if they kick that door down, they're going to kick me in the head. So I got to get myself back out of the way. So I slog myself out of the way, lean against the sofa, and wait for them to come in. In they come. They take me to the hospital. I get admitted to the hospital. Lots of tests, lots of scans, the works. Doctor says, you're going to be here for a couple of weeks. I was like, a couple of weeks? I got to be at work by 2:00. An intern kind of whispers in my ear, I think you've had a little stroke. Everything gets blurry and everything fades to black. It was like a movie. During my weeks in the hospital, the recovery, the rehabilitation, the physical therapy, learning to bathe myself, learning to brush my teeth, learning how to cook, learning how to walk all over again. All those months, this nursery rhyme kept going through my head. I didn't know where it came from or why, but I kept hearing, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. I'm like, this is killing me. The ensuing year was filled with the expected business of, painful recovery. It's emotional, all of the stuff you'd expect. Fear. Is this how I'm going to be for the rest of my life? Loneliness. I'm single, not married, no kids. I don't even have pets. Is this all I get? Just months of silence and rehabilitation, over and over and over, week in and week out, week in, row, row, row your boat. In the silence, there's reflection. And in the reflection, there's learning. Learning to divorce yourself from every preconceived notion of who and what you are, of what you think you could be, of where you think you'll end up. It's a whole new ballgame. I knew for years that I needed to make a change, but I lacked the strength to make them. I felt trapped within myself. Some of us need to make changes more than others. Some need to make changes more often. I'm just saying, make those changes as soon as you realize that it's time. It's not easy, at least it's not easy for me. Reach out to those who can help you change, your family, your friends, professionals, educators. But don't wait for disaster to make the change for you, is what I'm suggesting. Change your game, make your happy life, make the happy life that you deserve. It turns out that nursery rhyme was all the instructions that anyone would ever need. And maybe that's why it came to me, because it's been in there all the time. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 4 times. Merrily, merrily. And if you didn't get it the 3rd time, merrily, life is but a dream.
Hey, Al Underwood, what I tell you, this is amazing. And it's just so amazing when we're having these wonderful storytellers telling about stuff that is really, really a serious life-changing moment, and still somehow making it very vivid and even adding a hint of levity, because I'm picturing the Al Underwood movie. And I already have David Hyde Pierce, although he might be a little too old, doing the physicality of making the 3 phone calls. The last one being 911. But I'm trying to think what performer could do that physical comedy and still keep the all the nuance that's so necessary. Thank you so much, Al. I just got a message that my co-MC has arrived. So I do want to, in all fairness, hand off to him so he could bring up the last three of our storytellers. And I didn't have a chance to tell Amber that we were doing this. So I just got the message. But ladies and gentlemen, all the way from his day job, ladies and gentlemen, please, big round of applause for Mr. Dan Farren.
Oh, hello. You kind of caught me by surprise. Can you hear me all right, Tony?
I could hear you
okay.
perfectly, Dan.
One thing
And I
that
can
might
see you very well.
that's good. One thing that might actually help me if I know who's left, because I missed the first half of the show.
You missed the first half of the show, and yeah, because I was trying to text you. We have Ruben Padilla, who is coming to you from what I believe to be a 1960s anthology series.
Good.
We have Ty Fance, and then we have this up and coming newcomer kid named Dan Farren.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, we can bump him if we have to.
Give him the red light as soon as he says fuck.
Is that Mr. Padilla, are you ready? This is like really flying by the seat of our pants. Say hello to Mary Lou, everybody in the back.
Hi, Mary Lou.
I'm ready. Yes. You are ready? Okay. I'm very excited. I'm hoping that when the shows start to come back, that we one of the things I'm looking forward to is seeing Ruben Padilla again, because the thing about Ruben is that he's a magician. But he's not just a magician in the magical sense. He's a magician in storytelling. He always seems to pull the rabbit out of his hat at some point, and it always makes it a pleasure to be able to listen to him. Ruben Padilla, take it away.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. I just realized that for some reason I have the type of hair color that looks like somebody badly colored their hair, and I don't. I honestly don't. But I need you to, and it has nothing to do with the story, and yet I need you to know that so that you can fully appreciate the story. So not that there's anything wrong with coloring hair, it's just not something that I ever planned to do. So here we go. And thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. Hello, everybody. If I haven't met you, I look forward to that. So I hate timeshare. I hate it, as many do. The whole process, the pitch, a lot of the people, and yet the most money I ever made was the 8 years I worked as a group presenter and trainer of the sales department at Welk Resorts. I also hate sales. Did I mention that? But over time, the money wasn't enough. I felt I was losing my soul. So with depression and anxiety biting at my heels, I finally walked away straight into a therapist's office. And it was the best thing I ever did. But the next 3 years, the last 3 years, erased the soul-crushing monotony of a fluorescent lit hell and replaced it with the soul-crushing fear of an artist's existence. Yeah. I'm an artist. I never really claimed that before. I never felt I deserved it. I've been a magician, as Dan mentioned, since before puberty, a public speaker before that, a writer for most of my life. I've acted, I've written screenplays, I'm a published author, but I never claimed to be an artist, despite the maniacal pacing in search of the right way to say it, or the late night desperation of how to make tangible my passion, or the fear of failing to meet my financial obligations. It turns out that all the things I saw real artists experiencing, I was experiencing too. Funny, huh? And one particular kind of experience that artists are renowned for is the fantasy of resisting monetary temptation and holding on to your ideals, not compromising for commercialization. Actors often dream up impassioned monologues to deliver in made-up scenarios, like addressing a courtroom as a high-profile witness, or motivating a graduating class after receiving an honorary degree, maybe even inspiring the world as you accept an Oscar? Or is that just me? As a writer, I imagine myself, like other writers, eliciting gasps of delighted appreciation in putting together just the right words at just the right time, and then later revising it to sound even better. Lately, I've been devoting much of my time and efforts to pursuing the possibility of trying my hand at comedy. I mean, why not? So my artistic trajectory, which has been very fruitful lately, was suddenly doused with a cold splash of water recently when not one, not two or three, but four past bosses or co-workers contacted me because everything that they didn't value in me enough before, they're now valuing and want me to come back in various iterations. Derek was first, promising that everything has changed. Everybody's honest and fair and good. I never called him back. Then Jeff, after reassuring me that I'd kill it, was disappointed that I didn't want to do sales and would only consider a training and presentation design position. Bye, Jeff. Then David broke the news to me that his company wouldn't allow me to witness a live Zoom pitch meeting to project or to protect their clients' privacy. Talk to you later, David. And then Ryan contacted me after I left a sarcastic post on Facebook, and he invited me to come check them out because they're doing great things. And I decided to entertain his offer for one reason only. I always liked them, and he always liked me. And wouldn't it be great if the world worked like that? Now, it's important to know that I'm not a sellout. I had no intention of ever returning to the timeshare world. Come on. But I did see the potential for an artistic triumph. Get people in a room who are looking to hire someone with my unique qualifications and tell them dramatically exactly what I think of the industry, the job, of them. Just as I always wanted. And let's be honest, just as I've often fantasized while driving or in the shower, locations of some of my finest moments. So I said I'd do a presentation for them on why they should hire me, but I needed an hour of their time to do it. And to my surprise, they said yes. And I started writing and pacing and memorizing and rehearsing. I even shaved my beard. And I was Tom Cruise in A Few Good Men. I was Peter Finch in Network. I was Al Pacino in And Justice for All. I was fucking Batman, goddammit. Of course, this was all in my backyard. Could I do it for real with bills past due? Would I do it for real in front of strangers in a conference room? Did I dare? Bet your ass I did. And if I had another 20 minutes, I'd tell you exactly what I said because I memorized it. I didn't memorize this, but I memorized that. But take my word for it. I told them I would never, ever return to the world of timeshare. Unless. And then I told them what I wanted. And it wasn't about perks. I was Louis Armstrong describing a new world. I said I would only consider doing it if they were fine with me calling them out on all their bullshit. No lies, no manipulation, no canned presentations, and every agent on the floor had to be trained by me. I pitched the world's first and only 100% honest timeshare presentation. It was the only way I could admit to people, admit to you, admit to the world that I was even considering doing it. And if you don't think I'm serious, I actually wrote the word capable. I don't know if I'm capable. I mean, that's a pretty big machine. But if you don't think I'm serious about doing it, you don't know me. I said, if I have a pit in my stomach driving to work, or I have trouble sleeping at night, or I think for a second that we're fleecing anybody, I'm gone. And my story, this story, goes with me. I was never more serious in my life, and they knew it. The 1-hour meeting turned into 2 hours and 40 minutes. They couldn't believe I was serious. I couldn't believe they kept me for 2 hours and 40 minutes. I mean, it's a timeshare place, but still. A few days later, they said that my requirements were too expensive and would I negotiate? So I might not get the signing bonus or the assistant or the gas card or the wardrobe reimbursement, but I can promise you this. I will not be working for Hilton unless they explicitly agree to allow me to do my job under the same exact guidelines that I offered to my son Knight as he graduated high school last week. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Let people know you, love you, and trust you so you can help them. Because that's what good people do. I should know by this weekend if I'm going to be changing the timeshare industry. Until then, my name is Ruben Padilla, and I'm an artist.
Very nice. Thank you, Ruben. That was very, very nice. Thank you very much. That was that's a story that we can all identify with in one way, shape, or form. I had many things popping into my head while you were talking about that. Thank you once again, Ruben. We really appreciate that. That's a lot to think about. It really and truly is. One of the things that I'm looking forward to, by the way, it's just really weird. I've never hosted a show sitting on my couch before. This is
The only person who should be telling a story sitting down is Clay Bravo. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because I feel like I'm like sinking down on the couch because it's been a long day, but I feel like it's like the old the old Hugh Hefner Playboy After Dark things where they would sit around and talk at the party. And that's kind of what this is. One of the things that I miss from Story Salon, which I'm looking forward to having happen again very shortly, is the chance to stand in the back of the room and talk to Ty Fance. Ty and I have many different discussions over storytelling and over the shows and all kinds of stuff like that. It's always something that I look forward to every week. And I'm really glad to have him here this evening. It's always a pleasure to welcome Ty Fance.
Thank you so much, man. It's great. Boy, do I have a timeshare story. Let's skip it. It's like, woo. Okay. So, yeah, this is interesting because this story had its genesis about 10 years ago. And then I was looking at stories and this one kind of popped up in a way that I didn't expect. Someone else was talking to about the subject of this story. And I went, you know what? I'm going to do that one. And it really resonated with the theme. So some time ago, my neighbor was outside kicking and cussing and throwing furniture around in his yard. And I was like, whoa, what's up, man? What's going on? Man, I got jury duty. I don't have time for that. I can't afford to be out of work. Man. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, somebody's got to go, bro. I mean, isn't it your civic duty? I don't give a damn about that. And I went away thinking that, okay, well, hopefully he realizes what he needs to do and he gets it done. His day gets better. And at the same time, I was like tripped out because on the average, when I talk about jury duty, everybody's telling me how to get out of it, right? Well, sure enough, I get a notice. And I remember that first reaction. I was like, oh man, I can't do this. I don't have time for this. I can't afford to be, doing the same thing. And that night I actually dreamt that I was kicking and throwing furniture around. But it wasn't mine, it was my neighbor's. And I thought about, okay, I need to do what I was suggesting to him. So I go downtown in LA and in the jury room and sitting around, and you can feel that energy. Everything is really energy based. I'm really starting to understand that now because I'm actually trying to train a dog, which in fact I'm training myself. It's energy based. You don't, it could be nonverbal. You just feel it. That whole room downtown in the jury waiting room, the pool, was so negative, man. I mean, you could feel the energy as you walk through the room, sit down. Nobody looked at each other. They were all probably processing their excuse to get dismissed, right? I'm sure that's the only focus that they had. And, you know, so I'm sitting there feeling this thing and thinking, okay, well, it'll be pretty easy to get out of this, you know, just be, I don't know, negative and they'll probably just let you go. I had never done it before, so I really didn't know what to expect. I'm sitting around though, and I don't know if you get, people who know me, I like to talk and try to be friendly. So I try to talk to a few people, again, getting no feedback about the process, other than the woman that comes out and talks to you and gives you the rules. And so she does that. And I remember thinking, man, wow, she does this with such zest, this announcer giving us instructions, given this environment. It's like, I don't know, a stand-up comic where you hate it from the jump. And everything you say after that really is an effort to get across to people. So we're still sitting there and all this is going on. And I'm taking it all in. And eventually, a group of us, including myself, get to go up the elevators to an actual courtroom. Now we get inside and we're sitting in the area outside of where the attorneys sit and the defendant, and obviously not in the jury box. So we're sitting around, and I'm sitting there, and they have the actual defendant in the room, and I'm looking at him going, "Oh, he definitely guilty." Now I know that's wrong, but he had this look of criminal, and I didn't even know the case. And again, now I would say that was what I would call that unconscious bias that we have, where we decide something before we actually get the information. But I felt like I was right. You couldn't have told me I was wrong. This dude just looked like bad news. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to say to get out of this, because I really don't want to be here. Just like most of the other people, I just wasn't as animated about it. You didn't see it in me. I was just processing this thing. So if you've done jury duty or been in that process, at one point, the judge will have a group up to 12 potential jurors move over to the actual jury box, at which time each lawyer, the defendant's lawyer and the prosecuting lawyer, get to ask you some questions to figure out if you are good for their case. But prior to that, what happens is the judge will give you some background to the case. And then he asks two things. He says, give us your name and where you live. Now, I happened to be in that first group. I was juror number 9. And I got to be honest with you, he asked me my name and my address, and I'm looking at the defendant. I'm thinking, I don't think I want him to know where I live. You know, I mean, I don't want him to give that information. But as it were, the two questions that were important to be asked by the judge to the jurors were, wanted to know if you were in law enforcement. That was a reason for dismissal. You would think they would know that before they sent you the summons. But I guess in between the time you received the summons, you could have applied for police or law enforcement and got the job. I don't know. The other thing was whether or not you had family or family members involved in law enforcement. And then whether or not you felt this job, the job of being a juror, would affect you financially. Okay, those are really the 3 categories that were straight up. And so if you pass that, you got asked several other questions. Now, one of the questions, the judge at that point gave us the background of the case, which was the defendant was a gang member. I didn't have to be told that. He was a gang member, and he was accused of assault and intimidation of a witness of a different criminal case altogether. And he went from juror to juror asking if, he asked those other questions, the other three questions, the financial, whether or not you're involved in law enforcement. And then the judge asked, based on having some information about the case, do you think you would have a problem being unbiased about looking at the evidence and becoming part of the juror? And a lot of the cats that they asked, the other jurors, everyone said yes, except juror number 6. Juror number 6 was a young lady. And when he asked her, knowing the details of this case, would she be able to be fair and unbiased? She just started crying, like really hard. At which time one of the attorneys got up and gave her a tissue. And I'm like, wow, what's going on there? Up until that point, she seemed to be pretty cool, but she just started breaking down, crying. Now, the judge gave her a second or two and said, okay, we'll move on. He asked a few other people, and then it came back to her. And at which time she said, I cannot be on this case because I was attacked by a gang member. And then she couldn't finish talking after that. She kept crying. It was pretty deep. Now I have to tell you, again, I'm sitting there thinking, what can I say and do to get out of this? I was thinking about the job thing, and the income thing, although my job was paying for the jury duty. I couldn't claim that hard, but it was when she said those words about being attacked that I had, at that moment, had an honest excuse. Because when I was 18, living in Watts, I was attacked or robbed, if you will, by two guys. They were gang members. Now, I would say attempted robbery because I didn't have any money. So they basically were practicing. And then earlier, a year or so after that, while hanging out at the Will Rogers State Park there at the pool, I was jumped by 5 guys. Again, they weren't successful because I was pretty damn fast. I ran and got away from them pretty quickly, but that left a little stain on my brain. So at that moment, I felt honestly that I could get out of this by letting him know that what had happened. So I shared that when he called my name. And I felt honest, and I felt conveniently that this was the right thing to do because I'm already thinking the dude's guilty. And now I'm thinking, yeah, I can't be unbiased. Now, this is what happens when people who are experienced in emotional handling people in terms of things that happen to them. And I appreciate this because what he said to me next was when the game changed. He said to me, I appreciated that you had that experience, and I appreciate that you shared it with us. And I'm sure it was very dramatic for you. But let me ask you a question. I said, go ahead. He said, was the defendant the guy who attacked you? And I said, no. Do you think that it's right to hold him accountable for something he didn't do? I said, no. With you knowing that he was not the gentleman or the 2 gentlemen that attacked you back in the day, now do you think that you could look at the evidence and be unbiased? I said, yes. I really had a moment there because I was blaming my past for this true moment that I was having then. I was bringing all that forward and was going to dump that on this guy who had nothing to do with what happened to me. And that was the first time I started to realize that I do that a lot, or I have done that a lot, where I punish the present person for some crap that happened before. And then end up, later on realizing, I shouldn't have done that. But by that time, the damage was done. So anyway, I fast forward because that's when everything shifted. And I was confident that I can do the job. I can hear the evidence. I can judge based on the evidence and the testimony. And I can be that guy that you want on the jury because I'm capable of listening. Now, he cleared up my crap and now I could be the juror that he wanted me to be. So anyway, I end up being on the jury. I ultimately became the foreman. I wasn't there originally, but they had so much trouble in the deliberation, man, bringing up all that crap that happened to them in the past and not paying it. I mean, I was annoyed that, didn't you hear what the judge said? Just listen to the stuff that happened here, man, and don't bring in your personal crap. Well, anyway, we processed the whole thing, and we ended up shifting a bunch of other people had their decisions, and eventually we got a unanimous decision. So it came out, and the bailiff gave the information to the judge, and he read it, and of course we found him guilty because he was. But I'm glad that I went through that process because it changed me. It changed me that now when I see someone and I feel myself having an unconscious bias, I check myself first, because I know that if I do that, I'm not present for what's really happening in the now. And to me, that's more important than me judging them on some crap that happened long ago that they had nothing to do with. Thank you.
Ty Fance, thank you, Ty. Wonderful stories. A lot to think about this evening. But it sounds like there's just been a lot of stories that really make you think tonight. I'm going to end the evening now with a story that's not going to make you think. Well, it might make you think. Actually, this was actually the story about an incident that happened to me that probably was very instrumental in me finding Story Salon. I've been doing stand-up comedy for a while. We won't go into the details. I mean, it was a love-hate relationship. I loved it and it hated me. But one of the things that you needed to do at this time, this is like the late 90s, is everyone suggested that you do shows or try to get onto game shows so that you could get video for yourself for your reel, because the reel was very, very important. You had to have a reel that you could send around to try to get work. So I had gone to this show where they had some people from the Game Show Network there. And they were bringing back the Gong Show. It was going to be called Extreme Gong. And the whole idea now was that they were going to do the show live. And people, my wife was laughing in the background because she knows the humiliation I'm about to pass on to you, and it just makes her laugh uncontrollably. But I auditioned for them, and they brought me in as kind of a ringer. And that was, I was supposed to do about 3 minutes of stand up at the end of the show. And that gave them a chance to tally all the votes and see who the winner was. And as they explained to me, hey, we're going to pay you $100 to let you do this. But there's a really good chance, you could actually win. And if you win the $1,000, and that would be on top of the $100 already. So, I'm kind of thinking, well, I have a nice clean 3-4 minutes for television, and it's pretty non-offensive. I might have a really good chance of this. Oh, talk about delusion. Oh, talk about delusion. So Mary Lou and I go over to the studio, and it's now called Extreme Gong. And like I said, because of the whole, the way things work now, it's going to be live, and people can vote online whether they like you or not. And that's how there's no celebrities or no panelists. They just decide online. Oh, and we all know that everything that happens online is always for the best. But it's going to, that's how you get gonged. So I get there early, and I'm set. And then a production assistant takes me aside and says, run your act for me. So I run the act, and he goes, oh, we need about 30 seconds more. And I said, well, I've taken the 30 seconds out to allow time for laughs. And the guy looks at me and says, they're not going to laugh at you. Our audiences never laugh at you. Or not you, but they never laugh at any comedians. Our audiences hate comedians. And then I suddenly realized that I had been hired to be cannon fodder for this show. So I'm sitting there, and I put the 30 seconds back into it. And then this other production assistant sits down with this girl next to me and says, now you'll come out with the trophy at the end of the show. And what we'll do is, you'll present it. You'll come out right after the comedian. Don't worry, the comedian won't be on long because they don't like the comedian at all. So suddenly I realized that I have walked into probably one of the biggest setups since the Lee Harvey Oswald jail transfer. I'm going to get murdered out there. I'm going to get killed. So they take Mary Lou and they go and they put her in the audience. And because the show took place at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the West Coast and it went 8 o'clock live on the East Coast, they had to bring in an audience. So that day they brought in a bunch of Catholic high school students, all dressed in uniform. If any of you have ever seen my comedy, you know that Catholic high school students love my stand-up. So they load them all up in there, and the show starts up, and the show is hosted by a gentleman named George Gray, who is now the announcer on Drew Carey's The Price is Right. I say this because, George, I will always remember you, and you'll find out why in a few minutes. So they start the show up and they bring out dancers and singers and all this stuff. And the kids seem to love this pop group, and it was going really, really well. And what they do is they have this big board on the wall, and you can see the voting. And as the voting comes in, if they like you, it's in the green. If they don't like you, it's in the red. So I start, I'm pacing around in the backstage trying to figure out what to do. And at the very last second, they said, okay, you're going to come out next. And here's the deal. You have a joke in there about Sears. Sears is one of our sponsors, so we can't do any joke that makes fun of Sears. I said, okay, I'll take it out. I'll put something else in. So I'm standing in the wings and George Gray introduces me. And this is how George introduces me. Coming to our stage now is a former shoe salesman. Hopefully the stink of that will not follow him to the stage tonight. Here's Dan Farren. So I come out on stage, and at that very moment, there's a noise in the backstage or whatever, and it throws me for a second. And as Ty was mentioning a few moments ago, if they're not on you at the jump, they're never going to be on you. So already, I'm about 5 seconds into my set, and I can hear this tsunami of rumbling in the audience from this sea of Catholic uniforms. I hear this, oh, and it starts to grow and get louder and louder, and it turns into the hissing and booing and chanting. And I'm just pushing along. And it just keeps getting louder and worse and worse. And I look up at the screen where they have the tally coming in off the internet. And I'm watching it go from green to red to really red to really, really red. And I think in the back of my mind as this is going on, oh my God, people are paying $1.99 just to tell me that I suck. And I figured, okay. And here's where the brand new ball game comes into. This is my moment of defiance. This is what I call my Billy Jack moment. If you don't know what Billy Jack is, if you're too young, look it up. But go ahead and hate a stranger. But so I decide, if I'm going down, then the least that I can do is take the sponsor down with me. So I put the Sears joke back in, and I start rushing to get to it so I can insult the sponsor of the show to teach them a lesson for this horrible experience that they're putting me through. And before I can get to the end of it, I hear a sound effect that you would never hear on TV today. That is a gun cocking, followed by a large, enormous gong. I didn't get a chance to insult the sponsor at all. So I kind of shuffled off stage, and we all came out there at the end and applauded the pop group that won. They gave me a check for $100 and a bottle of water. And I went home and I started thinking, gee, there has to be other ways to express my art. There has to be other ways. And then about a week later, in a newspaper that's no longer around called the Dramalog, I saw the thing for Story Salon. So that's kind of what led me to Story Salon. I mean, and that was my big defiant moment, my game changer. I was gonna bring Sears down about 20 years before Sears brought themselves down, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But I did eventually find Story Salon. But George Gray, I still need to talk to you. Thank you very much. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our show. I'd like to thank the other performers this evening: Donna Figueroa, Tony Figueroa, Pat Willson, Ruben Padilla, Al Underwood, Ty Fance. I also want to mention that Merritt has a GoFundMe for the art parlor. If anybody there can actually get to it. Actually, right now, I believe Amber is putting up the link there. But we will also put it up on the page again if you want to help out the art parlor who's had a tough time during this whole pandemic. And if you could throw a couple dollars toward them, it would really, really, really help. Now, also, we are going to be doing another Zoom show at the end of July. Amber, do you know the date for that off the top of your head?
I do not have the date yet. So we're trying to determine it based on our in-person events.
Okay, so the deal is when Beverly gets out of jail, she's going to come back and she's going to let us know what the date is for that. I think that the theme for that show should be Timeshares of the Living Dead. That's my feeling on that. But we'll let you know about that. Now, I also want to mention, as Amber hinted to right there, that we are going to continue doing a lot of these Zoom shows. But right now, we are working on a return date for July to do live storytelling once again, back at the art parlor. I don't have, I'm sorry, did somebody say something there? No, okay. I'm sorry, I just had a flashback of the Gong Show again. That we're going to be actually coming back to the art parlor in July. We will let you know, and there will be things posted to let you know about that. It's going to be a little different, but it's a chance for us all to get together again. And I think it's something we need, and it's something that we all want to do. So Tony or Amber, do we have anything else that I have to mention before we go? Are we all set?
I don't have anything else on my agenda.
Tony, are you still around?
No, I am still here. And, you know, other than if anybody's in Massachusetts, that you go see Joe Doherty's show, Chester Bailey, if tickets are still available.
Do you know who was there to see the show the other night? Beverly told me this. Meryl Streep went to see the show.
Whoa.
Meryl Streep saw the show. And I told Beverly then she should tell Joe to prepare for the fact that Meryl and her daughter will probably buy the show and turn it into a movie. But wouldn't we all be lucky that way? Listen,
Donna and I
go
got
ahead.
to see the show in San Francisco
Mhm,
a couple of years ago, and it is an amazing play. I mean,
yeah,
we know what Joe can do on the small screen. Joe in the theater, that is really his wheelhouse.
yeah.
That's where he got started before he went to TV. It is just an amazing play.
And I've been I follow him on Instagram, and he's living the life right now that I think we all would. He's like in a cabin out in the woods where he's writing, and that's a wonderful thing to happen. It must be very relaxing in its own sort of way. Amber, thank you very much for all that you do for us and for putting these shows together. I always wind up feeling like I'm 112 years old. Am I on? Am I on? Can you hear me? Is this going? What do you do? But I think we're all set. So if that's the case, Amber, you can go ahead and take us off the air.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good to see you soon.
We'll see you at the next one. Have a good night.